Phil Neville, it's wonderful to be here in Miami. Formula One is here, which is obviously a globally iconic sport. You've got the Dolphins, you've got the Heat. Inter Miami wants to be a brand on that level. What makes you believe you can achieve that in the coming years?
Well, I think we've got an owner obviously in David Beckham, who's probably one of the most iconic figures in the world. So obviously with his brand and his ambition, we're in a city where you've probably got one of the most famous NFL teams. You've got a basketball team as one of the best franchises in the NBA, and we want to put football in there. We want to challenge the hotbed, or the quality or the talent in this area is huge, and it's almost untapped. The nearest team is 4 or 5 hours away in Orlando. We've got so much diversity within this region of talent from the Hispanic community, that I think it's a hotbed of football. And I think what we're trying to do at Inter Miami, we're trying to not just become the best team in the MLS. We're trying to be bigger than that. We're trying to be world renowned, and that comes from probably David's ambition and his vision for this football club.
$1 billion new stadium is coming. This one looks nice enough, frankly, but what will that help you do? And I mean, 2025, I think they're talking about it being ready. Are you looking forward to still being here to accommodate that?
I think last Thursday when we finally got, after 3 years, the planning permission for the stadium, that definitely went on the goal tree of like, that's my next aim, be here in 3 years for that new stadium, because the year after is the World Cup in the US, and we will hopefully be a World Cup venue. You think about the global exposures that there's going to be World Cup games in Miami. The stadium plans are incredible. It's going to regenerate an area that needs regenerating. The owners are putting so much money into that area, and we need to fill that stadium. We need to fill that stadium with the best players. We get calls every single day from some of the most iconic players wanting to come and play for us. We will need those iconic players to come and play for us when we're in that new stadium.
I was going to ask you about that. People wanting to come here. I'm having a nice time here. It's a lovely place. Do you have to siphon out those who you suspect want to come for a nice tail end of their career in these lovely surroundings?
Yeah, I think this league now is gone past the retirement league type. At 35, 36, come here, earn a couple of $1 million, live in Miami, LA, or New York, and just see out your career, because the football's tough and it's a young man's league at this moment in time. You've got the US national team, who I think is going to be a major threat at the next World Cup in Qatar, but definitely in 4 years' time when the World Cup's here, because the talent pool in this country is as good as any country in the world, I think, in terms of like the infrastructure now. So football is getting better in this country in terms of popularity. And gone are the days when older players can just come and jump on the gravy train here, because the league, because they can't compete. We've seen it, that the older players in this league can't compete anymore. Yeah,
you've torn up your roster. You've got a younger squad now. Is it, in a sense, any kind of class of '92 thinking? Is that how you?
Well, I mean, when I first joined the club, the first thing that David said to me was he wants to produce his own players. He wants to build this club in the footprints of the great Manchester United academy system, and we've had 2 players come through the system. We've got a great crop coming through from the under-17s, and we do have to produce our own players. It's not like European football, where we have billionaire owners that just keep ploughing money into transfers. We have a cap system here, so you have to produce your own players. It's cheaper to produce your own players, and that, I'd say, is probably one of the tops of my list when I got the job from the ownership.
Leo Campana's been your shining light though recently. Gather he's got over his knock over in New England. Can you hold on to him beyond this year?
If he keeps scoring goals, his national team manager came yesterday to visit. They're going to go to a World Cup, and if you're scoring goals and then score goals in the World Cup and you're 21 years of age, you're going to get the biggest clubs in European football or in world football wanting you. And we're not stupid. We've got a young player that we believe can go right to the very top. He's got everything going for him in terms of his touch, his technical ability, his attitude, his mental strength. And if he continues on his growth, by the time we get to the World Cup in Qatar, I'm sure he'll be going with the Ecuador national team. And then if he has a good World Cup, it's going to be, the top clubs will come calling.
Yeah. You've talked quite a bit about David already. We see him quite visible around the club. I gather he's here quite a bit as well. Do you have kind of quite strict demarcation in terms of your areas of responsibility? I mean, I suppose I wonder if you've been long-term friends and close friends and very close to someone, what's it like getting into an owner-manager relationship, which might need to be ruthless at some point?
Yeah, I mean, we've had difficult conversations. We knew from day one it was always going to be a point where we had to have difficult conversations, and he's no different. The thing about David, he wants to win, and he wants to win every game. You know, we've just come off the back of a 4-game winning streak, and we lost at the weekend against New England, and he wasn't happy. And you know, he lets you know that he's not happy, and those are the expectations he set from day one. We knew on day one that there was always going to be a point when we're going to have tough conversations, but that was never going to come between our friendship. We've had to be a lot more disciplined in terms of our friendship, which is understandable. This is a business, this is David's dream, and I'm an employee of his football club, and we knew that from day one. But the one thing I would say is, in terms of, he's backed me 100%. He's stood by me in difficult times when we've lost 5-6 games on the run. He knows the vision for this football club. He trusts everything that I'm doing. And you couldn't ask for anything better than that, considering what owners or managers have to go through in world football, where 2 or 3 games of defeats, they're out of a job. I have an ownership group that stands by me, believes in my vision, and we work closely together.
Yeah, well, they say calm seas don't make the best sailors, so
Yeah.
maybe this little tough spell you've weathered has helped forge an identity. Talking about David and yourself, obviously, the next generation are here too.
Yeah.
Sometimes son of is a difficult tag to carry in sport. How do Harvey and Romeo carry it?
They carry it well. I think it's difficult for me. I'm sure, like when we watch them play on a Sunday in the second team, it's difficult for David. But we're proud. We're proud of the journeys that they're taking on. They've created their own pathways, and they are treated. They're probably treated a little bit differently than everybody else, because they have to do double what everyone else has to do. They have to work harder, they have to train harder, because they have to really earn their stripes in this football team. For them to get into the MLS team, it's going to take a hell of an effort for them, because we want them to earn it. You know, they're at a football club where they've got a dad as a manager and a dad as an owner. And so they have to earn it, and they work really hard. They're humble kids. They know what's in front of them. They know the improvements that they have to make. I've got to say, there are times when I go home that you just want him to have you as a son, but at the end of the day, he's a teammate. I have to go into other rooms to have certain conversations about what I'm doing at the club. But my son is mature enough about that. And they're both doing really well. I think at the moment they're both doing outstandingly well, and that's the main thing. They're growing, they're improving every single day, and their attitudes are great. And we have to make sure they earn everything that they have.
Yeah. Talking about father figures, is Sir Alex in regular contact still? Is he still a source of help and advice?
Not in terms of sort of like regular contact, but I've got to say that the 18 years I had at Manchester United is the way that he managed, the way that he took control of a football club. He's never far away from my thoughts, and that's, as a young player, I took notes from a very early age on some of the things that he taught me, some of the things and decisions he had to make. And we've had to make some real tough decisions, and there's been times during those tough decisions when we had to get rid of 19 players and turn the squad around, where I kept thinking, what would Sir Alex do at this moment in time? He would be ruthless, he would be decisive, and that's what we had to do at this football club. And you know, he's always a great sense of reflection and a great sense of what would he do. But as a manager, you've got to be your own person, and that's what I try to be.
I wanted to ask you about David Moyes as well, and
yeah.
the job he's doing, I suppose, at the moment as well. Any surprise to you at all what he's done at West Ham?
No, and I think this probably period that he's having at West Ham probably sums him up as a person and the quality of his managerial, because there was a period when he was a little bit of a when people found him as an easy target because of a little bit of a period in his managerial career where it wasn't as successful as what his previous was. But I think what you see now is he's turned around a football club that was in need of turning around. He's built a team and stamped his own authority on it and his own imprint on it, and he's making them successful. And I think if you look at the Premier League managers of all time, he's up there with the best. He's in the top 5. You know, he's up there with the Fergusons, the Wengers, the Mourinhos, the Klopps and the Peps now, in terms of the quality of him as a manager. He's a brilliant person first and foremost, but he's an outstanding manager.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on Premier League, but I mean, I would ask the question. Hindsight's easy, but for people looking at Manchester United now and wondering why they've fallen so far off, might he have had more time back then? Is that part of the story?
100%, 100%. I was part. He brought me in as his first team coach, and if you look back now, totally wrong the lack of time that he was given. Totally wrong. The lack of time, the lack of backing, the lack of finance in terms of sort of like the investment that other managers have had, and you know, I'd say that that's the biggest thing. When we both left the club at that time, we needed another season. I think we deserved another season. Like 10 months at Manchester United in a difficult period for when the greatest manager of all time left wasn't enough. He had unbelievable plans to take the club forward, you know, in that summer. And I'd say that looking back, that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that United have made over the last 5-6 years since Sir Alex left, is not giving David Moyes more time, because I think he's proven now at West Ham with time that he can build a football club to sustain with quality and to be successful. And that for me was one of probably the most biggest disappointments I've had in football, is when he was sacked by Manchester United.
Yeah. Erik ten Hag comes in now.
Yeah.
It'd be 10 years, even if they win the title next year, since their last Premier League. How far off do you feel they are, and how much of a change in terms of the playing squad is needed there?
Well, it's obvious there needs to be big changes in the whole of the club. But what I would say is that can change very quickly. That can change very quickly. I've heard people say 5-6 years. It can change within 12 to 18 months if you pick the right manager, if you have the right players, and if you get the structure around the club right. That can change very quickly, and all it'll take is just 2 or 3 new signings, gain some confidence, gain some momentum. You know, you look how quickly it took Jurgen Klopp to turn it around at Liverpool. 2-3 seasons it took. United need to act fast now. They've got a brilliant young manager, a brilliant young coach, and he needs backing and he needs time. And I think at this moment United will give him that. And you know, United need to be back challenging. And you know, I think when I was younger, I think it was 26 years United went without winning a title. So there's nobody going to knock on your door and just hand you a Premier League title. You look at the quality of Liverpool and Man City at this moment in time. Phenomenal managers, phenomenal teams. So it's going to take a hell of a task to turn that around.
Frank Lampard produced the Great Escape, and what's in your mind as why they are where they are now?
Well, I think they will survive. I pray. I watched the game against Chelsea at the weekend, and you know, the minute that the bus turned up with all them supporters outside the stadium, I never forget when I was younger. I think they played Wimbledon on the last day of the season, and was it Tony Cottee scored or something like that? I remember, and it was just relief. It felt like that on Sunday. Everton is a brilliant club that can't go down to the Championship. Can't go down to the Championship. It's too big. It's invested too much money. The new stadium. I think Frank will keep them in the Premier League, and then I think what they need to do, they just need to get, you know, thinking back to the David Moyes era, stability, bringing in the hungry players, bringing in the right players, having consistency in the type of manager that you want. The types of choices that they've made in the past probably haven't been the right choices to fit the club.
Ancelotti going was unlucky.
Yeah, Ancelotti leaving and then Rafa coming in was probably not the right fit. But I think Frank Lampard, with his values and his quality, is the right fit for Everton. They just now need to get through these next 4 or 5 games, survive, and then start recruiting the right players at the right time.
Yeah. Got to mention England before we finish. It is a World Cup year, as you're saying, and USA are in the group. Yeah. And those of you that know their football history know that England have never beaten the USA in the World Cup finals. I mean, all right, they got to the final of the Euros. Gareth's done a great job. What do you reckon, both with regard to that game and maybe England going all the way this time?
Well, I think we're going into a World Cup at a time of the year that has got to give us a massive advantage. It's always normally at the end of a season when, you know, a Premier League season is exhausting. We're now going into a World Cup like 2 months into the season where our players should be fresh. I firmly believe we can win this World Cup. I really do. I think Gareth Southgate's probably up there with the greatest England managers of all time. I think the way he conducts himself, the way he manages the players, the way he's brought the supporters and the players together has been phenomenal. And I worked in the next office with him for 3 years, so I know the work that he puts in. And I do think that this is our time. The game against the US, we've got a couple of US players here that I've got to say I'm not releasing them for the World Cup. They are fired up for that game. They love English football. Premier League football in the US is massive. But I've got to say that we can't underestimate the US. They've got some talented players that are playing in the biggest leagues in the world now with great experience. They're young, they're fit, they're aggressive, and they're fearless. And they've got an outstanding manager in Greg Berhalter. So USA, I think, will progress through the group with England, and it's going to be an interesting World Cup at a time of the year that I think will suit us.
And it's the Women's Euros as well.
Yeah,
will you speak to Serena Wigman? Or do you have any? You'd have had a handover, but I don't know. If
yeah, no, I've not. I've messaged her a couple of times saying congratulations. I'm so excited to watch the Euros. It was just before, obviously a year before I left, that was going to be the last tournament for me, and the first game of being at Old Trafford. So I'm going to watch every single game. That period of my life was probably one of the most rewarding, working with the best set of players I've ever worked with, and I'll be the biggest Lioness fan in the summer. I think we've got a real good chance because I think we've got an outstanding manager. We've got a brilliant crop of young players. I only saw them at the end of my reign. We've got a brilliant crop of young players that I think will be fearless. We've had 3 World Cup cycles and a Euro cycles where we've got to the semi-final, and there's obviously scars from that. We've got a group of players that haven't got them scars, that can go into the tournament and just go for it. They've got to handle home advantage, the pressure of the filled stadium, but I think women's soccer in general is in a phenomenal place, and I think this summer will just be the icing on the cake.
Last question, because you've been very good with your time. Thank you. But we know where you want to be in 3 years' time. What about 5 years' time or 10 years' time, Phil? Managing in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think that's got to be an ambition. But at this moment in time, I want to be successful here. That I love working at this football club. I love the MLS. It is one of the best places to work in the world as a coach, and I want to be successful here. My coaching journey has took me to women's soccer, to Spain, to the Premier League. I've gained a lot of experience in different areas, but this I want to be successful, and I don't look beyond this job really. And my contract's up at the end of the season. For me to be here for the long haul, I've got to be successful, and you have to be as a manager. But there's one thing for sure, I love being a manager, and it's like a drug. You just want it even more and more, but you've got to have success.
We wish you well.
Thank you.